Welcome to the Floating Housing Revolution. Top 3 nations versus 6 that can't keep up. In this video, we will explore how some countries like the Netherlands, Sweden, and Japan have embraced innovative solutions to combat rising sea levels and urban density through floating homes. Meanwhile, we'll contrast their success with the challenges faced by nations such as the United States, India, and Brazil, who are struggling to adapt. Join us as we unravel the factors that distinguish these leaders from the rest and ponder what the future of housing might look like in a world increasingly defined by water. 1. The Netherlands. Masters of living with water. The Netherlands is the undisputed champion when it comes to floating homes. Centuries of battling the sea have shaped Dutch ingenuity, making water not just an enemy, but an ally. In cities like Amsterdam and Rotterdam, entire neighborhoods float seamlessly atop canals and lakes. Developments such as Eidsberg and the futuristic floating pavilion offer modern, energy-efficient homes that rise and fall with the water. Dutch architects use eco-friendly materials, cutting-edge insulation, and solar panels, turning these homes into models of sustainable living. Residents enjoy not only safety from floods but also a peaceful, close-to-nature lifestyle right in the heart of busy urban centers. What's even more inspiring is the community spirit. Neighbors gather on floating terraces, children paddle to school, and gardens bloom on rooftops. For the Dutch, floating housing isn't just a solution, it's a proud symbol of resilience and creativity. 2. Sweden. Floating into the future with style. Sweden's floating homes are as stylish as they are practical. In Stockholm's Hammarby Sjöstad, you'll find sleek, modern houseboats designed to withstand icy winters and summer storms. Swedish designers blend functionality with beauty, creating airy spaces filled with light and warmth. Floating neighborhoods here are built with strong environmental values. Think composting toilets, solar panels, and green roofs alive with wildflowers. Residents often describe the experience as living in a postcard, with panoramic water views and wildlife right outside their windows. This floating lifestyle also appeals to young professionals and families seeking affordable housing in a city where land is scarce. The Swedish approach goes beyond just building homes. It's about crafting entire floating communities that foster connection, sustainability, and well-being. 3. Japan. Innovation born from necessity. Japan knows all too well the power of water, from devastating tsunamis to relentless typhoons. This vulnerability has inspired Japanese engineers and architects to dream big, sometimes unbelievably big. Projects like the Ocean Spiral envision entire underwater cities, self-sufficient and safe from the chaos above. In more immediate terms, floating houses in coastal cities are being designed to withstand earthquakes and floods, using flexible materials and buoyant platforms. Traditional Japanese aesthetics blend with futuristic technology, resulting in homes that feel both familiar and revolutionary. The drive to protect communities from disaster has sparked a spirit of relentless innovation, making Japan a leader in adapting to our changing planet. For many, these floating sanctuaries offer not just safety, but hope for a more secure and harmonious way of living. 4. United States. Stuck in regulatory limbo. Despite its long coastlines and inventive culture, the United States lags behind in the floating housing revolution. Innovative proposals pop up in cities like Miami and Seattle, promising flood-proof homes and waterfront living, but progress is slow. Complex zoning laws, strict building codes, and high insurance costs make it difficult for floating developments to get off the ground. Public skepticism and a lack of political will further stall adoption. Where floating communities do exist, they're often limited to luxury houseboats or exclusive marinas, rather than broad solutions for flood-prone neighborhoods. The potential is enormous, but without sweeping policy changes and public buy-in, floating housing in America remains more dream than reality. 5. India. Overwhelmed by scale and scarcity. In India, the scale of urban housing needs is staggering. Cities like Mumbai and Kolkata are crammed with millions, and monsoon floods are a constant threat. While floating solutions have been piloted in regions like Kerala, they remain isolated experiments rather than widespread trends. Government priorities focus on traditional affordable housing projects, and investment in floating infrastructure is minimal. The challenges are enormous. Limited financial resources, rapid population growth, and bureaucratic red tape all conspire to keep floating housing off the agenda. For most Indians, the idea of living on water is still a distant dream, overshadowed by the daily struggle for safe, solid ground. 6. Australia. Potential lost in policy gaps. Australia's sprawling coastlines and love of waterfront living seem like the perfect recipe for floating homes. Yet, despite interest in cities such as Sydney and Brisbane, regulatory uncertainty holds the country back. Land use rules and environmental regulations often favor traditional, land-based housing over experimental alternatives. Developers face uphill battles securing permits, and public support is lukewarm at best. A few high-profile floating home projects have made headlines, but systemic change remains elusive. The irony is hard to miss. As sea levels rise and floods threaten coastal communities, the tools for adaptation are there, but so are the roadblocks. 7. Brazil. Struggling to tread water. Brazil's largest cities face a double challenge: a severe housing deficit and frequent flooding. Discussions about floating homes surface occasionally, especially after devastating floods in low-lying areas. However, chronic underinvestment in infrastructure, political instability, and pressing short-term needs, like providing any shelter at all, make it nearly impossible to pursue floating housing on a large scale. The focus remains on emergency relief and low-cost, land-based solutions. For many Brazilians, the idea of a floating home is little more than a distant hope in the face of urgent daily struggles. 8. Canada. Opportunities adrift. With its vast lakes and winding rivers, Canada seems tailor-made for floating communities. Places like Vancouver have experimented with floating homes, offering picturesque settings and eco-friendly designs. Still, widespread adoption is hampered by tough building standards, insurance issues, and a general lack of enthusiasm among policymakers. Most Canadians still see floating homes as quirky novelties rather than practical solutions to housing shortages or flooding. A handful of innovative projects show what's possible, but the momentum just isn't there to turn Canada's waterways into bustling floating neighborhoods. 9. Nigeria. Urbanization outpacing innovation. Nigeria's cities are growing at a breathtaking rate, and flooding is a constant danger, especially in coastal areas like Lagos. Yet, floating housing has barely entered the national conversation. The reasons are complex: limited government resources, a focus on building basic infrastructure, and ongoing struggles with poverty and political instability. While architects and planners occasionally talk about floating solutions, the realities on the ground make progress almost impossible. For now, Nigeria's urban poor continue to face the brunt of climate change with little hope for innovative alternatives. 10. What sets the leaders apart? The nations leading the floating housing revolution share some striking similarities. They have a history of adapting to water, strong political will, and a culture of innovation. Investments in research and development are matched by supportive policies and public enthusiasm. Floating communities in the Netherlands, Sweden, and Japan aren't just technical marvels. They're woven into the fabric of daily life, offering comfort, safety, and a sense of belonging. By contrast, countries struggling to keep up are often hamstrung by bureaucracy, lack of funding, and competing priorities. The difference isn't just about resources, it's about vision and commitment. 11. The emotional impact of floating homes. For people living in floating homes, the experience is often described as magical and freeing. Imagine waking up to sunlight glittering on the water, kayaking to visit neighbors, or gardening on a floating deck. There's a sense of resilience and hope in knowing your home can weather the next storm. These communities foster a deep connection with nature and each other, turning what once was a survival strategy into a joyful way of life. The emotional benefits, peace, security, and a shared pioneering spirit, are as important as the technical breakthroughs. 12. Could floating homes be your future? The floating housing revolution is not just about engineering or architecture, it's about reimagining what home means in an uncertain world. As climate change accelerates and cities grow ever more crowded, the question isn't whether floating homes will become a major part of our future, but how quickly the world will adapt. Would you dare to live your life afloat?